Welcome to Robbie's Rants. Real people, real stories. Please like and subscribe.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Robbie Rants. I am of course your host Robbie Collins. Joining me today is a very special and different type of guest. I hope you all enjoyed last week's episode with Kine. That was a lot of fun, but now I feel like I'm almost interviewing the person that usually interviews me. I'm joined by Michael McEwan. Michael has cerebral palsy, but it does not let that affect him. He writes a monthly column for Barhead News. Other titles he's written for are The Scotsman, The Times and The National, including a lot of other stuff. He's worked in the set of River City, which I'm totally no jealous of. And if you want to hear him rant about Scottish youth enough game time, you can find him at the locker room. It is Michael McEwan. Michael, how you doing?
Robbie, it's brilliant to be here. Thanks for asking me on, and it's brilliant how you're going to ask me questions instead of me asking you questions. So, but I'm sure you'll be better at it than me. So, yeah, no, it's nice to be here, mate.
No, it's brilliant to have you on. You're a guest I've wanted to try and get on for quite a while since I knew I was going to be sort of starting this up. So I thought what better way to do it than now. First of all, we should say thanks to Karen Butt. Okay, I think I messed up the second name. But she done the voiceover that you heard on the intro. She's got an amazing voice, and it was an honour to have in the video. Mic on it. To thank you as well for getting it for me done.
Yeah, no bother, mate. That's all right. Yeah.
So we dive into it. I did listen to you on, I think it was Sean McDonald's podcast. That was very good. This is going to be slightly different. We're going to be focusing on football because you know how much we love football in here. In the media and journalism world, obviously I mentioned in the intro you have cerebral palsy. What sort of challenges would you say you've faced in around the journalism world, sort of breaking in and maybe even nowadays?
Oh, right, okay. So you hit me with a difficult question first. That's good, Robbie. So I suppose, like, going back to the beginning when I started out in journalism, that was about 15 years ago, maybe more than that. Yeah, I mean, I did have challenges to get into the media and stuff like that, but it's more of like who is the right person to who's the right person to speak to in terms of ideas. In terms of my kind of like disability, and you might find this if you speak to more people with disabilities or mental health, I think like if people says no to people with a disability, that makes you more kind of determined to basically shut them up and say, you know, I'm entitled to do whatever I want, and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I mean, there was challenges there in terms of getting into journalism, getting into kind of like further education as well. But like I'm at a level now where I want to be at, but like it's took me all that time to get up to that level where I wanted to be at, and it's because I think it's like just a matter of like kind of like chipping away at what you want to do, whether it's like you know, like work experience or kind of like learning or on the job, as it were. So yeah, I mean, it's took me a hell of a long time where I want to get to the now. So I'm at yeah, I'm at an okay place now. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's always interesting to hear different people's stories. We had Kine on last week, and he told an interesting story about he got into the sort of world was journalism and media, and obviously I think you've always sort of grown up around football, but was this something that always interested you from young? Was it something that you always wanted to do? Because like for me, it wasn't until maybe about 2 years ago I could actually sit in front of a camera. Or was that something that you were never really shy on and you always sort of felt keen on doing?
You've known me for what 2 years now, Robbie, or whatever, and we've been working together every Friday night or every other night when we do shows as well, and I'm very confident now about doing it. But like if we did this podcast maybe about, I don't know, about 10 years ago, I would say aye, I would do it. And then 5 minutes before, I would maybe email you and say, I can't do it, I'm sick. But I wasn't sick. I was just saying that because I was shy to do this kind of podcast or this kind of interview or TV work or whatever. And I was generally shy. I know that might sound a bit weird because like you've known me from the other side now, but like I was generally shy, kind of like maybe about 10 years ago, in terms of like didn't have any pals round about like to go out with and stuff like that. But now it's like the total opposite. I had to kind of like make myself do things that I didn't want to do, if you know what I mean. I had to kind of like push myself outside that comfort zone. And I mean, I feel much better. I mean, since I've been a wee boy, and that was years and years ago. I wish it was yesterday, but it was years ago when I was a wee boy. I've always wanted to do media kind of work, but I didn't have the kind of balls to do it, the kind of confidence to do it, and you know, and I mean, listen, like people could say, like you could say to me, Michael, go and do it, and a lot of my pals could say do it, but it's all right for them to say I do it, but it's really like it's really like up to me to say that I'm going to give myself a kick up the arse to actually do it, and like I've done it, and like I've achieved kind of like so much, and there's a lot of things that I would like to do more because like I'm sure you're the same like in life, and I know that you're much younger than me, but like you're not happy until it's a bit like football, right? You can't stay still. Yeah, sorry, you can't stand still. You've always got to move, as well, and that's a bit like me as well at the moment. But I'm more confident like doing shows and like I used to work as a public speaker, so I had to learn how to speak in front of random people that I've never met before and stuff like that. And that kind of helped my confidence as well. And like what you were saying in the intro there about being on the set of River City, and that gave me more confidence because, and I'm sure you're going to speak to me later on about this, but like, you know, when you're watching the TV, it's not like you and another actor that I'm working with. It's like you, the other actor, two cameramen, a sound boom, um, all the kind of makeup and like props department watching you. So like there could be maybe something like 15 people on set that you don't know their names, but they know you because it's quite bizarre. So you need confidence to do that, but at the same time, it kind of helps your confidence as well to you know, to kind of like G you up and do more things in life. I know that was a kind of messed up answer that I gave you, but like I just wanted to give you a wee insight into my head.
Yeah,
What it's like.
yeah, I always say the more in-depth the answers, the better. And I think you take a lot, like the public speaking thing must have been really helpful getting into something like this because I came into it after the back of getting into a college course and no being able to speak to anybody in the class. And then suddenly I'm in front of a camera with a mic and a camera in front of me and speaking. And there's different ways to get into it. So it's good that you at least got the skills before sort of stepping into this sort of field, if you will. But I feel like there's all sort of different stages because it's easy enough for us to sit in front of a camera here when it's no live and chat away. We can probably chat for hours if we really wanted to. I mean, so it's almost different to then get on the locker room, for example. When it is a live show and you can't mess up, but you can't say something you can't say. Like we've had times on the locker room, I'm sure in the past during live streams where people have accidentally maybe slipped out a word that they shouldn't have. it's all that sort of different stuff that you just need to try and build yourself up to. I feel like this is always sort of different, and we'll dive into football soon, but it's different to maybe who can you remember your earliest football memory. I'm going to ask you, can you remember the sort of first time you ever sat down and done a podcast?
Oh, done a podcast once. Oh, so basically it was, Graham that used to be on the show, and the Scout comes on kind of now and again. So his mate Matthew done we done a show together, and that's how Matthew got Graham kind of involved, and then Matthew buggered off after that. I don't know why, but it was. I can't remember. I think it was like the first year of lockdown. So whenever that was, I can't mind. But so before before the locker room was going to cameras and stuff like that, in the media used to have like in the radio as well. So as well as live streaming like the locker room and all the different shows that we do, they all also have like a radio station as well. And I always wanted to do a football show for ages, and I was just waiting about to see A, will I do it myself, or B, will I wait for somebody to come email in, or whatever. So I was this guy Matthew emailed in at the time, and we kind of just set up like a bit like this, what we're doing now, but I was mostly on radio. And believe it or not, the locker room wasn't live back in the day; it was recorded. And I used to hate doing that because, as you know, sports can like transfer windows or whatever. But I remember doing a show way back at the beginning, and I don't know if you know, Jack Charlton used to be the manager of Ireland, and we recorded the show on the Friday, and the show went out on the Saturday. But by the time we finished the show, sorry, on the Saturday morning as the show went out, Jack Charlton died, and we didn't speak about it on the show because the show wasn't live. So that's one of the things that I kind of hate about doing a sports show when it's not live. Because I mean, me and you could, I don't know, talk about St Mirren, against the League Cup game where Arbroath is it, and that's Saturday, and we could be recording the show, and then suddenly something happened in the game, or the game get cancelled because of whatever. But so that's why I love doing the show live, and you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who's going to slip up, or maybe me a few times, because I remember last season I said something, and I think it was you or another guy picked me up and said, no, they're not on you this season or whatever. So that was my first taste of doing a kind of like sports show. I've always fancied doing something about sports, but I've never really had the opportunity. But I suppose like that was my first taste of talking about football during
Yeah.
lockdown.
And now you look at the locker room, and it's a really good platform to speak about football. I've really enjoyed it. I've been doing it since Scotland were at the Euros. Believe it or not, I remember that was my first show. The game, I think we lost the opener. I think I went on the show after that.
Funny enough, we lost.
I know, and it's been the same theme since I've been on the show. So maybe I'm the bad luck jump to Scotland. But you look at the locker room, you look at the team we've got now. How did you sort of I don't want to say assemble the team. It almost sounds like I'm talking about a superhero movie, but how did the locker room like start in that sort of sense? You know, with the team we have now, because you've got brilliant guys like Reagan, Alistair, Des. You've got, I could name a lot of people that are on the show. So how did you sort of get everybody together?
I've never been called a superhero before, Robbie, but I'm going to take that one, right? The basically, so I got to know all the guys actually. I think Reagan invited me on to his podcast because Reagan used to do a podcast, and I can't remember what it's called. He'll kill me because I can't remember the name. But anyway, so I got him involved. I got Graham was involved before Reagan, or I can't remember. I'm getting old and dirty now, so in school. So so and I suppose it's just a matter of kind of emailing people as well, because as you remember that we had Des and Steve on the show one night. I think they were on twice actually talking about VAR. And then I just emailed Des to say, would you like to be on the show now and again? And I put it this way, I've had no one basically say no, so hopefully that's a good thing. So yeah, I mean, I've kind of just built up networks over the years, like yourself. It's been a brilliant addition to the show, and thanks for your help.
No,
Reagan, Alaska, Mikey, Des, and also we've had like Roddy Hamilton, Michael Grant from the Times. We've even had Graham Spears on as well. And just trying to kind of like branch out into, whether it's Paul Mitchell. We had Paul Mitchell on as well from the BBC. So we're just going to branch out into different aspects of football, whether that could be football fans or journalists or people working on the TV and stuff like that. And everybody loves talking about football. So I've just kind of like branched out kind of like over the years as well, and I'm quite happy how the locker room's kind of got a good number of people that watch the show. But I'll tell you what, I love, Robbie, like people that doesn't misses the show, but also they watch it back, because obviously we've got some viewers that actually says, "Oh no, I'm going out tonight, but I watch the show back." And usually when you go into the link, they usually leave a comment about the show. 9 times out of 10, it's like Michael's talking shit again, as well. Usually you say that, Robbie. So like that makes it
never,
that kind of
never.
makes it strange. So no, I'm dead happy how it's kind of worked over the years, and but as I say, you've always got to move forward, and you've always got to make more kind of like additions to the show and make it better. Because I'm a big believer, like if you stick with the same format, say for about 4 or 5 years, people will begin to get turned off because it's repetitive, and it's like, oh, right, okay, so we're going to speak about this again and this. So, but no, I'm looking forward to the new season, because I mean, obviously, we've got new ideas and new to new people to come on the show as well. So that's going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, I need to thank you. Look, I mean, for example, last season when I remember we done a show one week, and I think it was the Cup semi-finals, and we managed to get journalists on for each of the teams. And I remember speaking to Barry Anderson during that time, and
Oh yeah,
it was just it was just such an honour. Like, Barry's a guy that genuinely, before I even knew about the show, like, it was a guy that I always looked up to in journalism, because when I was starting out, I was doing writing, and I seen Barry's work and what he done with Hearts, obviously, and he's writes some real top notch stuff. So that's been good. I can confirm, by the way, Reagan's podcast is only as good as your last game.
Yeah,
Um,
okay, thanks.
I couldn't remember what it was as well. I had to get a quick look up. But no, it's a real good podcast to get involved with. But it's been brilliant. I mean, looking ahead into the future for the locker room, obviously the big sort of step I think is maybe doing in-person podcasting eventually, which would be a brilliant. Like even when we're sitting here right now, there's not made I love them to be doing this in person because I think you'd agree it is just better doing this sort of stuff in person, and I think you can read people better as well. So for the locker room, if I had to ask you the next maybe 2 or 3 seasons, what would you like to have achieved in that sort of time?
I would like to kind of like, obviously we're working towards this and now, and that's part of the reason why we're kind of going through a development stage for the show. I mean, let's be honest, Robbie, like 9 times out of 10 you watch podcast, right? And people sits in the house and swear and all that. And that's fine. But like that's not me. Like because I'm a professional journalist, I don't want to go in half-assed and say, yeah, what about that effing game tonight and stuff like that. But podcasts, people are fine with that, because if they want to swear and swear every second word, that's fine, but I'm not like that. In terms of like the locker room, like I would be bound to get into a studio because I mean you mentioned a big thing there, Robbie, about body language as well, because it's so many times that you speak on the show and I speak, but we can't see each other. Whereas if we were in a studio, it would be better to read somebody like Robbie's going to say something, or maybe Reagan was saying something about the Rangers game last night or whatever, and you wanted to come in, well, you could give me the eyes or whatever to say, and so these kind of wee kind of things would make a big difference in the studio as well, and it would make sing. I'm not saying that would make us sing better because I believe that we are singing good for now. But if you're just in the studio, it gives you like a kind of. I know you do a show as well, Robbie, and I've had the pleasure of being on that show as well. But it gives you as though you get a bit of a high being in a studio.
Yeah, you look at.
Yeah.
So I was just going to say, you look at something like PLZ Soccer, which is obviously one of the biggest Scottish football ones gone around now. I think for the listener it's better as well because you're getting in real life interactions with people when you're watching and commenting. But it's good for us as well that again we're all there. We're all together at the same time. It's just that sort of. I think it gives it that better feeling almost with podcasting. And you're right, for stuff like body language, I think it is so important. Don't get me wrong, what we did in is really good. I'm enjoying it and it'll be good getting into next season as well. But that would be a good ambition. If you get any other sort of aims or stuff you'd maybe like to have achieved by the next sort of 2 or 3 seasons.
No, I mean just like in terms of like obviously people always see the shows every Friday or every Sunday and they say, well, just Robbie and Michael just turn up and do it. Well, no. That's the simple answer because I've told you many times, like, so if we had a show on a Friday, then I would start working on the show on the Thursday, like watching Stephen Robertson's press conference, or you watching it, or me watching the Rangers one. But I would like to go to these press conferences and I would like to go to the games as well to report back. I think like that would be brilliant if we did something like that next season, i.e. maybe 2 weeks away, and reporting on the games, not commentate because obviously like you would have to buy the rights and all that, and we've not got any, we've not got 50 pence, never mind millions of pounds to buy the rights for the games. But what we could do is report before the game and after, similar to what we do in the midweek show, Robbie, when Rangers are playing, say for instance, Panathinaikos and a week on Tuesday night. We will do the show before the game, do it after the game, and do something like that as well. So I would like to see us kind of like doing that, but yeah, I would love for us to get a sponsor and love to us to move into an actual studio, because I forgot to say to you, including yourself as well, Robbie. So I met Reagan and Alaska. I met Alaska a few weeks ago actually, but everybody's on the show I've never met before, and that's pretty weird. But weird in a good way, because even though we haven't met each other, we still know each other. If that makes sense. I know that's a bit stupid for me to say, but we still get on together, and even though we haven't met up, and hopefully we will do in a few weeks. But it's. I think we've got a good bond of people on the show now, and the blog, a variety of voices as well. And I'm sorry, Barry, I forgot to mention Barry Anderson's name as well earlier on. But it's just good to work with guys that love football and love to build like the knowledge about them, not only football but also yourself, kind of like interviewing people as well. Because I mean, I could sit here and interview 10 people before the first show, but I'm not like that, because that would be good to give you some interviews, or give Reagan some interviews as well, and give you guys some experience as well, and try to teach people that what I've kind of learned kind of like over the years as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big sort of thing is obviously, all the work that we really do is freelance work. None of it's, I'm not getting paid for sitting here, or we're not getting paid for every week in the locker room. So that side of it is also an effect as well. I mean, the locker room, I like to think we've got a good group of guys that will always ski up their free time to come on the show. And, guys maybe like Alistair, who's, by the way, he's been brilliant. He's maybe one of the most knowledgeable fans I know or I've met. He doesn't come on every week, but it's always good that he is a recurring guest that will come on some week. I mean,
he's a brilliant guy, Alaska, yeah. He knows everything about football.
I really knows
Well,
everything.
no, everything, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, he's very tall as well. I think you figured it a few weeks ago.
Very, very cool. Yeah, because I met, I think I was speaking to you about something, and I said, I'm going to an event at Hampden a few weeks ago. It was a book launch with John Attenborough that we had on the show, and John's brought a book, and Alaska was there, and I couldn't believe how tall he was. I think I said to you, I think I said this to you as well. I was kind of a bit intimidated, because I thought, bloody hell, I mean, I'm 6 foot, right? But he must be like 8'5" or something. He's like massive, So I think it would be good to go with him a night out, because I don't think nobody would mess with him.
We've got a good bodyguard. I remember when I did meet him for the St Mirren St Johnstone game, and I just remember walking up, man. I looked and I was like, "Is that Alistair?" Because obviously we only see like this us when we're on a camera, so I obviously don't see how tall he actually is, but he is massive.
No,
but honestly,
massive,
he's such a nice guy. Really nice guy. You mentioned there, John Attenborough, and obviously he released a book. How big an influence has he been? Because I know you spoke about him a few times, and I've seen the work that he's done. But to you, for John, is he such an inspirational guy to you? Because he just does some top quality work, and I've seen his TikToks before as well, and he's documented some absolutely brilliant work that he's done.
Oh, John's a brilliant guy. We done a show. I can't remember what were you on that show. Oh no, it was myself and Reagan. I think it was.
Yeah.
We done a show about the book. But John's brilliant guy. I just saw on Twitter the other week that he was over in Sweden. I think it was a few weeks ago. So he did a lot of work for the kind of like disability community, but it's also access community as well. Like he physically put 32 grounds, and that's including down in England as well. And they brought out a book May, I think it was, last year. And that was when I met Massive Alaska at that event. John is, I mean, first and foremost, Robbie, you've got to remember that, like, John has his own, like, challenges as well, like, confidence-wise as well. Because John's visibly impaired, it's very difficult for him to get out in the boot, but it doesn't stop him from going out in the boot. But yeah, I mean, I think he's knocked down so many barriers that's get put in this way, and he's a guy who would, if you say no to him, he would say, "Well, why?" Like he would maybe. It's a bit like tennis. If somebody says why, he would say, "Well, how no?" So he's come up against a lot of challenges in his life, and it's good well, and I'm sure that, and he's got a big kind of like following on social media, and that's brilliant to see as well. And also it's brilliant to see in terms of like when I talk about disability, it's like like disability is only a label, like it doesn't define who you are. And that's the way it should be. Sadly, it's not. That there's still a lot of kind of discrimination and all the rest of it out there. But no, John's been brilliant for the game, and in fact, I think he got an award. Was it last season? He went to the final. Was it Peterhead or was it? I can't remember. But he won an award. Sadly, his guide dog passed away a few months ago. I think he's got a new dog. I can't remember the dog's name.
Yeah, I think he does. I can't remember the name either, but he is such an inspiring guy because, like you as well, you don't let the problems you may have affect you. You will go and do whatever you want to do, and it's so good to see because there is a lot of hate in the world, and I'm sure a lot of people see it sort of, maybe with challenges that maybe don't want to, achieve anything and don't have that mentality, but at least you can look at guys like yourself and John and go, well, look what they're doing. There's no reason why you can't do that as well. And just before we get into the halftime question, I do want to ask you about one more thing. You did recently join the Scottish Football Supporters Association. How has that been for you joining that? Because I know I obviously get involved in it as well. It's been brilliant so far, but how have you enjoyed working in the sort of disability space in the Scottish Football Supporters Association?
I know. So Alaska asked me round about the same time as you. I think. I think I joined the month before you or whatever. But no, I mean I was delighted that Alaska asked me. To be quite honest with you, I've been waiting for Alaska to ask me for a wee while. So I'm quite happy that I did. No, it's brilliant. At the moment, I write blogs for the website about not only about disability football, but I wrote up about kind of, I can't remember what else I wrote about. I wrote about 4 or 5 bits last season. And I'm trying to do a one kind of like once a month, and Alaska puts up on the website. But yeah, I mean it's a brilliant organisation to work for and all that. Again, it's voluntary, but I don't mind. And yeah, I mean, it's just brilliant to work with yourself and Telfor and everybody else and the association. And again, it's another bit of work that I haven't met people. I've only met Alaska. Hopefully, I'll meet you in a few weeks' time. But it's good to be involved in kind of like campaigning for football and make it better for not only for disabled fans but everybody kind of like in general.
Yeah, I know 100%. It's been brilliant, and again, as you said, it would be nice to meet up with the guys as well because Telfer, for example, I obviously work very closely with him because we focus on the same topic. He seems like such a nice guy, and it would be nice to go out and actually see everybody and yourself and Reagan and basically everybody bar Alistair. I've never met anybody else, so it would be nice to see everybody. But funny story, so this question was meant to be an icebreaker question at the start to sort of get into the podcast. That's twice in a week, twice in a row now, sorry. I forgot to ask it at the beginning, so I will just turn this into a sort of half-time question. I did what I actually asked Ken last week. I cannot remember what he said because he gave me some movie quote, but what is a quote that sort of inspires you, or, you know, what's a quote you like reading back in your head, maybe when, you know, you're about to go on a podcast or something like that, something just to maybe motivate you a bit?
Yeah, so I've been thinking about this one all day because like when you text me like what we're going to talk about, and I was like, that's fine. And I've been on a lot of podcasts over the years about different things, and they always ask their guests like two questions as well. But when you text me that today, I couldn't really think of anything like a movie quote or whatever. Like I was thinking about "I'll be back" by the Terminator, but I thought, well, that's not very, that's shite, that thing. But if you want to take it, you can take it. But yeah, to be honest, I hate when people ask you. No offense, but I hate when people ask you questions like that because you're thinking, well, I'm not I'm not really sure what to say, like what's your favorite food, and you know all that kind of stuff. And
Aye, I sort of like, I wasn't going to do that when I had the original idea to start this. I was like, I'm not going to ask any question like that because some people get really nervous. They can't come up with an answer, and it might put a bit of blank air in the podcast. But I thought it's a question that at least I can pre-warn people about. You know, you and kind of these the day off. Make sure you prepare something so that you at least have some sort of idea of what we're going to be talking about. Because look, I've made a guest appearance on I think a couple podcasts now, and there's nothing worse than when you get in blank-headed. I don't know about you, but I don't like getting onto something without knowing what it's going to be about. So when I get stuff like a plan and stuff like that, it just makes everything 100 times better.
Yeah, I mean, it's listen. I don't mind being on a podcast when they're speaking about what you're on for, but when they speak about, oh, what's your favorite book? It's like, well, I don't read books, so like I'll make something up, like you know. But no, I mean I don't mind it, and I suppose like that's part of the fun, and by doing a podcast, and like you don't know what you're going to ask me, and you know stuff like that. So I don't mind it.
Yeah, it's fine. We'll move on. You don't need to get a quote. Most people have asked, can I come up with one? So I understand, but I do want to ask you about music. It's something that you have tweeted about before. One band that I'm interested in is the Pulp, because I know you tweeted when they returned, and I know they've done a few shows. How influential is music to you? Because when we spoke to Ken last week, Ken, I don't want to say whole life, but a lot of his sort of day revolves around music. You know, he loves listening to it, bands like Oasis and stuff like that. He absolutely loves it. It's almost a part of his life. Is music the same for you, or is the Pulp the same for you? Do you love music in that sort of sense?
I mean, when I'm in the house working, Robbie, or like I turn the TV on, the TV's always shite, to be honest with you, during the day. But so when I get up in the morning and I do my workout and stuff like that, I always have like a workout. I think like a muscle man, but I'm just a wee guy from Barhead, you know. But no, so I've always got whether it's music or the radio, I've always got it on in the background because the thing the TV's always shite anyway. But I guess that's listening to music, and I know this is a bit weird, right? But see when, and I know I was speaking to you about this earlier on about late nights, right? But see when you listen to music and you look out the window and it's a late night, it always kind of like paints a picture in your mind. I know that's a wee bit weird for me to say. Um, so I love I love all types of music from like pulp to the band of the moment kind of Oasis, but I wasn't a kind of big Oasis fan as well. Stereophonics, like so up to like the present day. But like it's funny when you watch Glastonbury and some of the bands were on last week, and I was, who the hell are they? I've never heard of them. And I was well, I'm 41 now, so I'm not getting any younger. Just
Um,
getting bold there now by the minute. But no, I mean I love music, Robbie. Aye.
yeah, I mean, the reason that came to my head was because funnily enough, I did watch Pope's Glastonbury set last week when it came on my BBC iPlayer. I thought, why not stick it on? I've not listened to Pope in a while, and it was actually really good to watch. Another band that I know you like that we've both actually seen live is Texas. I only found out about Texas maybe a year ago, I think, before I went to see them, and I've got to say I was impressed, although that's maybe going back a few years for me anyway. That's a band that my mom loves listening to, but I feel like I'm one of the only ones in my sort of generation that love that type of music. I love going back and listening to older sort of bands. I don't know, it just, to me, it has a bit of a better feeling about it. To me, it's a bit more music, I suppose. I think a lot of modern day music can sort of be a lot of, the rap sort of stuff and just random beats and stuff like that. Whereas Texas, for example, I'm not gonna lie, I absolutely love going back and listening to all the Texas songs. It's been brilliant.
I'm gonna think that I'm old fat here, Robbie, but like, yeah, people might say, "Oh, well, son, they don't make music than they did back in the 90s." But they're right in the way. Like Texas, I saw them live in the High Road, and it was just kind of, oh, what a gig! I mean, no, I mean, I'll be honest with you, Robbie. Like, it doesn't matter who's playing on the High Road. I just love that venue. I think it's brilliant. Like there's a split moment that you're in the high road. Like you actually forget that you're in Scotland. I don't know why, but it's got that kind of like American Australian feel to it. But no, I mean Texas they were awesome, and Charlene Spaghetti was brilliant as well. Deacon Blue, that's another my favorite band from the 80s, 80s, 90s. It's funny when I went to see them for the first time, right? And I'm like that. I said to my partner, bloody hell, we're the youngest folk here. But I forgot like Dick and Blue has been out for a long time. So there's actually been people like my age and maybe older.
Yeah,
So I guess you can't beat live music, Robbie. It's all like listening to it in the house, but when you're at a venue, there's something about it as well.
aye, no, 100%, I'd agree. I mean, I think, and credit to Clyde Wan, because I think they hit the nail on the head where, when we went, me and my cousin, it was very much a mix. You had, I think, Callum Beattie, who was probably the newest artist. You had Amy McDonald, Texas, Emil Sandy. There was a lot of different bands and singers, but I just felt Texas was the standout because I think there was
Oh,
more
they
older
were
people
brilliant,
there.
yeah.
I think there was more older people there, and me and my cousin are sitting there. I'm 19, he's 18, and we're sitting going, we don't know the lyrics to any of these songs because at that time I didn't know Texas that well. But you get the
Right.
older sort of generation singing a lot, which I actually made it better because it made me want to go and listen to them. But like, I'd 100% agree with you. I think music back in the 90s and 80s is 100% better, in my opinion, than anything that you'll probably get now, to be honest with you. Um, a bit of a transition into football. You mentioned earlier you've been writing some articles and stuff, and I found one that interested me. I think you put in the locker room chat as well. You wrote an article about football players playing too many games. So the transition
Yeah.
question of football is, how do you feel about the Club World Cup?
That was the whole idea of me writing the article, probably because I feel as though, I mean, me and you love football, right? We can talk about football every week. Well, that's what we do, and every weekend, right? But in the summer as well, it's like, I mean, I love football, but I also like a wee break, maybe like a few weeks or a few months or whatever. But nowadays, you're never going to get a break in football. I mean, you've got the Club World Cup, and I think that's I think that's still on. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
still on.
Yeah, it's still on.
So like they're playing all the way through, and then they had the Scotland game against Liechtenstein, and their season went on for like bloody 2 or 3 weeks longer than the season actually finished. So there's more football now. I'm going to think that an old fart again, Robbie, and say that football is a business now. It's not football as in if we kind of knew it when we were growing up, because there wasn't any big sponsorship deals, or there wasn't a game on Sky every 5 minutes. And I think this is just the same as the Club World Cup. I believe that this will happen next season and every season now. I would be very surprised if it's a one-off tournament, or maybe it would be. I'm not sure, but it's all about money, Robbie.
Yeah.
And and I'm sorry, but I'm gig against tournaments like that.
I don't like the Club World Cup as well. I was on one of my other mates, Ryan's podcast, and he's very against the Club World Cup as well. I think it's almost one of the things where it is just for money, and I don't know if you've seen what happened to Jamal Musiala of Bayern Munich the other night when they were playing PSG. He went in for the tackle on PSG's goalkeeper, Donnarumma, and he basically snapped his leg, and he had to get stretchered off. And now, I think he's 21 or 22, a really young football player, because they want a bit more money and they're playing a summer tournament, is now potentially facing career-threatening injuries, and I think it was only a matter of time before that happens. So I completely agree with you, but let's get into the best football league in the world, Scottish football. What is your earliest
Right.
memory of Scottish football growing up?
I went to I'm I'm about weird sometimes, Robert, right? And you might say, well, Michael, you are weird anyway. And I don't give my team away on the locker room, or else I don't write about the team I support. Obviously, you know what team I support. We've because we've had that conversation. And I might give the game away a wee bit here. I went to see Celtic years ago, well, more than years ago, the early 90s, when they had the old jungle. Can't remember much about the game, actually. All I knew was I was there, and that was weird because that was like the old jungle, and now the old jungle is like an all-seater stadium at Celtic Park. I used to go to junior football a lot as well in Barhead. I used to follow Artley, so that was my local junior team. I went there with my cousin every few Saturdays. So if you want to watch a decent game of football, I wouldn't advise you to go to a junior game. I don't know if the standards kind of changed now than it was in the mid 90s. So yeah, I mean that was my earliest memory, probably of going to football games and stuff like that. And all my family was into football, so I couldn't kind of like escape no supporting our team. But I mean, it's funny because there's some families, they all love football, but there's one particular person that doesn't like football. They like rugby or badminton or fucking ice skating or something. And that's fine, but I just feel as though that's a bit kind of mental and weird, But no, I couldn't escape it because like, my brother played football for Queen's Park and Hamilton, and I think I went to Millwall and Clio as well. So and ever since then I've just loved the beautiful game, and I've got the pleasure of speaking to you about it and the other guys about it on a Friday night, and I think my love for the game started from a very kind of young age to to basically now.
I think that's probably like most, particularly in Scotland and England and most of Europe, because Europe is the sort of football place. Whereas if you're born in America, you're most likely into American football or any of that sort of stuff. So I suppose we are just sort of brought up on it. Growing up watching players, obviously. Who was your sort of favourites? Who did you like watching? In Scottish football, because I think it's very easy for people just to fire out the usual Ronaldo's, Messi's, and all that nonsense. But was there anybody in Scottish football you looked at and genuinely thought, "Wow, this guy's like a superstar to me"? Like, this guy's just it's so good.
I didn't have a kind of particular player. Obviously, I'm going to say Man United. I'm not a big kind of English football fan, but Man United had a good team. That famous kick by Eric Cantona. I remember he went into the fans and got a kung fu kick to the fan, and that was. I was going to say that was pretty funny, but it wasn't really. You can edit that bit out if you want. But no, players like I may be showing my age now, Robbie, but players like Ryan Giggs and Paul Scholes and Rio Ferdinand and even Les Ferdinand as well when they played for Tottenham as well. Up here, like you had the likes of I've had not a bad decent team as well. And in fact, when I that's a good question actually, because there was a few teams in Scotland that they had decent players, and then again that was football. That was before like people went for study money like 15 million or 50 million or whatever. I think to remember like Murrow had a good team as well, like John Spencer, Jim Griffin, and that I didn't know until I was a bit older. Then I went to Murrow College, and Jim Griffin was one of my lecturers at college. He won the Scottish Cup in '91, I think it was. I want to say '91 or '95, I can't remember. And then obviously you had David Cooper, Rangers, you had kind of like McCoy's by Brian Rowbrook. Celtic, you had like John Collins. So like through the decades, I'm sure like I could pick out a decent maybe 2 or 3 football teams, because they were kind of like decent and they weren't going for big money. In fact, I don't think they were going for any kind of big stupid amounts of money than it is today. I've told you I'm sounding a bit old in this podcast, maybe Robbie, but football's not kind of like what it was back in. A bit like music, what we were talking about earlier on, like it wasn't the same as it was like years ago when I was at school, or people say when you were a lad, and stuff like that. But I suppose like you've got to kind of like move with the times and all that. But no, I mean I love football, and then it's funny when I've got being my bonnet about football not being on TV. You didn't see a lot of football in the 90s. It was live on the TV, like then you get every week on Sky or Premier Sports or BBC Scotland Channel. But aye, it's weird for you. Good for you asking me that question, but it's weird to look back and compare things to that was like today.
Yeah, I think it is interesting. You mentioned about the TV stuff there, and I think the main difference is maybe back then there was maybe an intent to go home and watch match of the day, or I don't know what the Scottish equivalent. I don't know if it was still sports scene back then, but
Sport.
Scott, aye. So I think now you're looking at sports scene nowadays, and it's a pretty good transition into modern day football, and it maybe just isn't the same as it used to be. I think there's a lot. I think the biggest problem, Michael, for me is we speak about all these problems in Scottish football, and I'll ask you about everybody's favourite topic, VAR, in a minute. But in terms of
No, it's
actual,
all right.
in terms of actual like television and stuff these days, I think we want more on the TV because we know we can get it. I think that's our biggest issue. I think now that technology's advanced so much, and there's multiple ways to stream things on the telly now, that we just expect top notch quality, and that's maybe why we will go in the locker room and we'll speak about the TV deal and how there's only there is credit to Sky and Premier good games on the telly throughout the opening weekend, but apart from that, it's probably going to be bare bones because the Premier League's back. So do you think maybe that is it? Do you think maybe people look back then but look to now and go, well, technology's advanced so much and now we have the facilities to get stuff on the telly now with demand for it, really?
It's good and bad as well, because if you want to talk about that, you maybe want to talk about AI as well. Like, I mean, I was watching the football game in Japan yesterday, and it was all played by robots, and it was a game of football. I think it was like 7-a-side football, and I'm thinking, well, I'd be fun to watch that in like 10 years' time. But yeah, I mean, and also as well, like, not to go down a rabbit hole, Rory, but like a lot of it's got to do with COVID as well, because like we demand things now. We don't demand things yesterday or tomorrow. In terms of like when you say to your mum or your dad, "Oh, I want that," and they would say, "Oh yeah, I'll get you that for your Christmas." But when you think about it, like, and I do think that an old fart now, there's no Christmas Day, because you can get things tomorrow, or you can get things tonight on Amazon and all that. So it's weird how things has went, and I mean, it does help football fans in a way, but the still a paywall kind of like in a way. Like, if I mean, you were saying to me a couple of weeks ago that you can't afford your season ticket for St Mirren this season, sorry, next season, but football fans, they don't, as Alex got said this quite a few times on the show as well, football, football clubs don't talk to the customers, and you are a customer of St Mirren, but they don't come round and say to you, "Robbie, can you not come back? Because we're going to make you a deal," or something like that. But at the end of the day, they don't care if you're coming back or not, Robbie, because somebody else will buy your season ticket. But it's not very fair on you, because like, you've been going for years, so it's going to impact on. I'm not saying your mental health. That's too strong a word to use. But like, if you've been going to football for, say, maybe 20 years, right? This season you can't afford it. What you got to do on the Saturday, because that's your kind of like routine, kind of like on a Saturday. And I suppose you could say that during the summer as well, but because there's no football on, but that's only like for 7 weeks, and then it's back as well. So I think football clubs should really speak to the customers more and say, what about the season tickets? Are we making them too high or too low? Or, and just come in the middle and meet you a wee bit as well. But I feel as though technology has, it's weird how it's went so quickly. I mean, me and you are doing a podcast tonight, but like 10 years ago, we wouldn't know what the word podcast meant,
Yeah.
because there was nothing out there. I mean, I remember, showing my age again, but I remember using a Bible, it was called. I don't really remember that. And like, so like that was the equivalent of Facebook, and like MySpace was like, well, I was basically MySpace, but it was something similar like Facebook as well. And now you've got Twitter, and you've got Instagram, and you've got bloody I can't remember, Twits, and stuff like that. But aye, as we are saying, technology has moved to not every year, every day, Robbie. Like you wake up and you see something weird, wacky on the news about so AI's come out, and it's just weird. I can speak about that all night, but I'm not going to bother.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely get you back on in the future to specifically speak about these topics, because the next topic is the last. I will ask you one more question, and I think I've been a bit mean because I asked you a hard question at the start, and I'm asking you maybe an unanswerable question at the end as well. It's VAR, but the more general topic on Scottish football, because we know the state VAR's in, we know our opinions on officiating, we know opinions on the TV deals, we speak about it all the time on the locker room. We're very vocal on the way the game's gone, and particularly in Scottish football. So my question to end is, if you take the current state of the game and you take VAR and you take the way everything's run right now, and you look 5 years into the future, we'll go, where do you think the game will go if we keep going down this route? Because let's be honest, everything that you read in the media right now is pretty negative towards this stuff. I always try to be as positive as possible. I'm quite a positive guy. I just want what's best, but you can't help but escape the negativity, specifically on VAR. So if you were to look 5 years into the future, look at the Scottish football, the way the TV deal's gone, where would you say the game will be in 5 years? In terms of, I feel like that's quite a broad question, but in terms of like the standard and where the officiating is and the standard of VAR and stuff like that.
So just on VR, aye.
Yeah, on VAR, like just the league as well in general. Like, do you think the league will drop further away for the standards that it's maybe at the now in terms of the fan base, or how many people watch on TV and stuff like that?
I'll try not going a bit of a rant here, right? I know it's called Robbie Rants, but it might turn into Michael's rants as well. So just looking back over the past 2 seasons it's been in, it's actually killed the game. It's actually just killed it stone dead. I mean, if you ask maybe Des or Steve or whatever, they would maybe say the same thing to you. So if you think about if we weren't talking about football, right, if we were just talking about society in general, like if you were moving house, right, you wouldn't like it, because we live in a society now where people doesn't like change, right? And that's the thing with VR as well. But and then if you live in that house for like 2 years, you begin to like it. And that was the same as VR coming into football. Fans were saying at the beginning, well, it's got to kind of improve the game and the standard as well. We'll just see how it goes. And then ever since then, it's just went from back to us to embarrassing. Embarrassing Scottish football. Maybe that's why there's not a lot of games on TV, or we've not got a big sponsorship deal as well. But when you move jobs or move house or whatever, you begin to like it and you say, oh, I like this. This is good for the game, or good for you moving house or whatever. But VR, I feel as though it's going back the way, Robbie. It's going to go forward. If we, like, the very first thing, the sugar broke it in at the beginning of the season, not in November or whenever it was, halfway through the season. Like, only Scottish football can do things upside down. So if they were going to bring it in at the beginning of the season, get everything, get golden technology, get everything. Because we saw what happened at Hibs last season, I think it was, against Celtic.
Yeah.
And there was a few incidents at St Mirren Park as well. I'm sure And I'm sure when Viking, everybody in the show can make the big say, aye, okay, this happened at Rangers, at Johnson, Hibs and Hearts as well. But I don't think like most supporters wouldn't mind if VAR was working better than what it is. And I do think as well that the refs are getting paid big money for that, and they're kind of like relying on VAR. So if there was a big incident, then the ref would, a famous word we use in Scotland, gets checking out of it and go to VAR and say, well, what do you think of that? And VAR says, I don't think that was a foul. And the ref says, okay, no foul as well. I mean, I was saying to the guys on the show a few months ago, there's actually, if you think about it, there's actually 6 officials on the game now. So you've got a ref, you've got 2 linesmen, you've got a 4th official, and you've got 2 VR officials sitting in the room. So technically, like, you know, there's 3 teams on the park. There's like Celtic, St Mirren, and the bunch of refs. It's refereeing the game as well. And also as well that oh God, I'm going on a bit of a rant here, Robbie. It's all a bit like, it's a bit like saying, you know, you mentioned Gavin about that in the Club World Cup, somebody gets injured, but if somebody gets injured in the phase of play and the goal get chopped, the goal get chopped off for offside, that player's season could be finished because of the move kind of thing, you know. And I do think sometimes I do think that football's making football too. There's too many rules in football, Robbie. Now, like offside, like back in the day, you were offside, you're offside, right? But you're not offside until you score a goal, and then you're offside, or until you kick a ball, and then you're offside. There's different things about, like, in terms of like, if you're at St Mirren Park and you score a winning goal against Celtic, the last minute goal, we beat them and all the rest of it. And then you say, oh, wait a minute, it's no goal.
Well, it's funny you say that, because you go back to St Mirren versus Celtic last season and the game's 2 each, and a game that I try to be as unbiased as possible. I thought St Mirren were actually the better team in the game until Celtic made the subs late on. So when it's 2 each in that game and Celtic are coming on the attack, we're going on the attack, and our player gets tripped up inside the box, and we spoke about it in the locker room at the time, and we all agreed it was factually a penalty. The fact that the referee can then speak to the linesmen's agree to go to a VAR check, then the VAR gives it a no penalty. How can 6 people look at that decision and all come to the conclusion that that's not a penalty, when Willie Collum could look at it a month later and go, that's the absolute stone wall? It just, to me, that I feel like I was a bit harsh on VAR, because I feel like I sort of blamed VAR for the problems, when maybe it's more, how can they officiate and get better so we're not making these mistakes? How can 6 guys see a stonewall penalty and somehow still come to the decision to not give it in such a big moment of the game?
And they're getting paid big money for this, Robbie.
Yeah.
They're getting, I mean, if that was you, like, if you were working for, I'm not going to say if you were working for me, like, but if you were working, I don't know, in a office, like, get pretend you were a journalist, right? And in fact, you know, and you make a big cock up, you would get sacked. Not the next day, there and then. But they make so many mistakes, it's unbelievable. And guess what? They got away with it. But a lot of people, well, now they believe it. That's a second job. Most people find it bloody difficult to get one job. And they've got 2 or 3 jobs. In fact, I won't mention the name, but There's a guy gets 3 or 4 jobs, and he's an MP. I might have give it away. I don't care, but he's getting paid to make that mistake. And you think, well, people's struggling to go to the football game because it's too expensive, but they pay their £25 or £35 or whatever it was, to make to see the refs making shit mistakes. And I'm not talking about every few months, Robbie. I'm talking about every week. I mean, I remember we did a show on the Sunday, and this was before before the time on the show when VR came in, and Michael Smith, the Hearts player, handballed the ball, and that was a penalty for Celtic. Now everybody can see it, and if you think back to that moment, Michael Smith, you could actually see him looking as if to say, bloody hell, I got away with one there, because it was a penalty, and he actually saw it. And Graham and all the rest were saying, "Oh yeah, that was a penalty." From even day one, there was controversy, and it's not even. I'm not even talking about Celtic and Rangers. I'm talking about like St Mirren. I'm talking about Hibs. You can go for the whole team, the whole league. So I don't know where the game's going, Robbie, right? Because I always say this in the show. People always laugh at me, right? But there's a serious point to it, right? So I don't know about what, if you go to the game with your, well, you go to the game with your dad, but you go with your pals. But so like, if you go to the game, right, and you meet up with your pals before the game in the pub or whatever, and you talk about the game, and then you go to the game and you come back and you go to the pub, and then you go to the pub. I'm just talking about a pub because everybody in the West of Scotland goes to the pub to meet up with the mates. But you spend half an hour, right, talking about the cock up, the ref meg, and the VR decision, and then you talk about the game. So you automatically forget that you're at the game because the ref made a ball or that penalty or that goal that wasn't a goal.
Yeah, I mean, a good example, sorry, just quickly, I don't know if you remember last season when someone played Hibs on the telly at 2 o'clock on the Sunday and it finished 0-0. It was on Premier Sports, and that was one of the games where my dad couldn't make it, so I was asking a couple of my pals, do you want to go along? And we ended up going to the game, and you're right, we went to the pub behind the game, kicked half at 2, and we were in the pub for 12. And basically the whole 2 hours were spent talking about the day before. I think Rangers had played, could have been Hearts, I think, at Tynecastle. It was Rangers played somebody on the telly on the Saturday, I remember that. And all we done the whole 2 hours was speak about VAR controversy, and we're sitting there like, after it going, well, we've just wasted 2 hours of our life speaking about stuff that, let's be real, now it's really not going to make much of a difference, to be honest, but you get caught up in spending that amount of time speaking about stuff like that.
Well, I mean, if people watch this other show on a Sunday, Robbie, we talk about the game, but VR takes up the majority of the game because we've got to talk about, was that ball in or was that ball at play? So, I mean, we can mump and moan about it, Robbie, right? But I think the only way it's going to change is if fans speak up for a bit like the Scottish Supporters Association. If we do a lot of kind of work, because I know that Alice got a good relationship with Callum Beattie from the SFA and all that, Neil Doncaster. But again, it's back to listen to your fans, because the fans are paying big money every week to go and see the game, but they're also paying big money for going to see your mistakes every week. And then obviously I'm not going to go on this too long, but for what they call it to come out once a month to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." and I know that me and you spoke about this on the show, and we kind of, I'm not saying me and you kind of disagree on this point, but I think like we kind of agree on the point that it's good that the SFA is doing that. Maybe we'll go one step further and say that should be on Sports Scene on a Saturday night, because it shouldn't have their own separate platform. It should be on Sports Scene on a Saturday night for like an hour, from like 7:30 till 9 or something, talking about the games, and have maybe know what they call them, and have an ex-player and an ex-official and stuff like that. But I just feel as though that we're going down a bit of a rabbit hole here, because I thought it would be good for the game. I thought it would be teething problems at the beginning, but I didn't think we were still going to be there for 3 seasons in, and we're still going to be talking about VR. I mean, see when you watch, say like St Mirren away in the Scottish Cup to Dumbarton, would you rather watch the game without VR than have VR at the game?
100%. There was a time last season in the Scottish Cup fourth round where Hearts played away at a lower league team and they won the game 3-1. But I remember the team that scored the opener. It was a clear offside, and there's no disputing that.
Was that were they playing Spartans?
I think so. Maybe it was Spartans away, and I remember Spartans were 1-0 up, and it was a clear offside goal. I remember it. The boy was at least half a body offside, right? And look, I'm not saying we should be allowing offside, because obviously the rules are the rules and you're not allowed to be. But just having that feeling of watching the game before VAR, knowing that if a mistake did happen and the liner didn't see it, it was the excitement. It was knowing that mistakes will happen through human error. It's only natural that referees make mistakes. The problem is referees nowadays are making mistakes when they have big machinery that just realistically should make them not make mistakes. It's one of the things that, how can we have the technology to make a game better, but we're still making the same mistakes that we did even without the technology?
I haven't beat before technology as well, and okay, there were still debates on pubs and phone-ins and all that, but it's not at a level as what it is now, But and I prefer what's. And the other thing as well is when you're watching the championship game on the Friday night, like if it was Michael Stewart or somebody commentating, they would. My pet hate is that saying, well, a VR was in, that wasn't a goal. So they kind of like refer back to VR, even though VR wasn't kind of like involved in that game or that league or whatever. I do think it's wrong, and in terms of like the Scottish Cup as well, like it shouldn't be involved in the Scottish Cup maybe until the semi-finals. It shouldn't be involved in the fourth round of the Scottish Cup. I think that's the same as the League Cup as well. I'm not sure. But VR for me is like put it this way, Robbie. Like there's more questions than answers.
Aye, I think you've probably summed it up perfectly there, Michael. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute honour to speak to you. We'll need to get you back on, because we've not even covered 10 minutes
I know.
worth of the things we could dive into, but we'll definitely get you back on in the future. Where can people find you and find the locker room as well?
Yep. So you can jump onto my website if you want. It's michaelmckewanmedia.com, where you can find everything about me, about what I've did for the BBC, STV, and all that kind of wonderful stuff. You can also get me on Facebook and Twitter, or X, I should say now, LinkedIn as well. And you can join myself and Robbie and all the other wonderful guys on our Friday night between 5 and 7, and Sunday between 3 and 5. I always have to think about the time on Sundays, because sometimes it's not 3 until 5, sometimes it's 4 until 5, or 5 till 6 or whatever. Just depends on when the game's on as well. So you can find us on independencelive.net. So if you go to that and you'll find us on the locker room on a Friday night and Sunday and maybe a Wednesday or Tuesday night. Whatever, whenever we can be asked, basically. So you can hit us up on there and stuff. And thanks for having me on, Robert. It's been brilliant talking to you.
No, look, it's my pleasure. I will leave all Michael's links in the description so you can check them out. Please like, subscribe, share with a friend. Comment your opinions on Scottish football, music. Comment on anything you've heard today. We'd love to hear your opinion. And we will see you guys next time. Goodbye.